This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jagarich. France has delivered a written proposal to Beirut aimed at ending hostilities with Israel and settling the disputed Lebanon-Israel frontier, according to a document seen that calls for fighters, including Hezbollah's elite units, to withdraw 10 kilometers, that is 6 miles from the border. The plan aims to end fighting between the Iran-backed Hezbollah and Israel at the border. The hostilities have run in parallel to the Gaza war and are fueling concern of a ruinous, all-out confrontation. The document, the first written proposal brought to Beirut during weeks of Western mediation, was delivered to top Lebanese state officials, including Prime Minister Najib Mikati, by French Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné last week. 4 senior Lebanese and 3 French officials said. It declares the aim of preventing a conflict that risks spiraling out of control and enforcing a potential ceasefire when the conditions are right, and untimely negotiations on delineation of the continuous land border between Lebanon and Israel. Hezbollah rejects formally negotiation a de-escalation until the war in Gaza ends. Opposition reiterated by a Hezbollah politician in response to questions for this story. While some details of similar mediation efforts by U.S. Middle East envoy Amos Hochstein have been circulating in recent weeks, the full detail of the French written proposal delivered to Lebanon have not previously been reported. The 3-step plan envisages a tender process of de-escalation ending with the border negotiations. One French diplomatic source said the proposal had been put to the government of Israel, Lebanon, and Hezbollah. France has historical ties with Lebanon. It has 20,000 citizens in the country and some 800 troops as part of a UN peacekeeping force. The plan proposes Lebanese armed groups and Israel would cease military operations against each other, including Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon. Several non-state groups, including Palestinian factions, have mounted attacks on Israel from South Lebanon during the latest hostilities. Though Hezbollah is the dominant power in the area, with a fighting force widely seen to outgun the Lebanese army, the Lebanese armed groups would dismantle all premises and facilities close to the frontier and withdraw combat forces, including Hezbollah elites, Radwan fighters, and military capabilities such as anti-tank systems, at least 10 kilometers north of the frontier, document proposes. The Democratic-led U.S. Senate was expected to vote early on Tuesday for final passage of a $95.34 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, amid growing doubts about the legislation's fate in the Republican-controlled House of Representatives soon after lawmakers swept aside the last procedural hurdle facing the legislation late on Monday. Republican opponents of the bill took to the Senate floor for an overnight marathon of speeches. Aides predicted that a vote on passage could begin before 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Senate passage appears certain. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has been able to deliver the support of at least 17 members of his party conference, more than enough to exceed the 100-seat chamber's 60-vote threshold for passage. But both houses of Congress must approve the legislation before Democratic President Joe Biden can sign it into law. And the bill faces a long odds in the House, where Republican Speaker Mike Johnson faulted the measure for lacking conservative provisions to stem a record flow of migrants across the U.S.-Mexico border. In the absence of having received any single border policy change from the Senate, the House will have to continue to work its own will on these important matters, Johnson said in a statement issued late on Monday. Senator John Thune, the chamber's number 2 Republican, said it was not clear what Johnson would do. Meanwhile, Biden has been urging Congress to hurry new aid to Ukraine and U.S. partners in the Indo-Pacific, including Taiwan, for months after Haman's October 7th attack on Israel. He also requested funds for the U.S. ally, along with humanitarian aid for Palestinians in Gaza. Ukrainian officials have warned of weapons shortages at a time when Russia is pressing ahead with renewed attacks. But aid to Ukraine faces stronger headwinds in the House, where Trump's interests hold greater sway with Republicans who control the chamber by a thin majority. Indonesian authorities were making final preparations ahead of Wednesday's election, with around 25,000 police set to ensure security in a contest seen as a test of democratic gains made since the end of authoritarian rule 25 years ago. Outgoing President Joko Widodo has presided over steady growth and relative stability in the past decade in the mineral-rich group of 20 economy of 270 million people, establishing it as a future base for multinationals in the electric vehicle supply chain. Still, Widodo, who is widely known as Jokowi, has in the run-up to the February 14th presidential election faced criticism over his perceived political meddling and push to establish a political dynasty. He has not explicitly endorsed any of the three presidential candidates, but has made highly publicized appearances with controversial former Special Forces Commander Prabowo Subianto, and his eldest son is running on the same ticket for vice president. Two opinion surveys last week projected Defense Minister Prabowo, who is making his third run to be president, could secure more than 50% of the votes on Wednesday, allowing him to win in a single round. Rivals Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo were seen at least 27 and 31 points behind him, respectively. Indonesia has entered a cooling off period until voting day, with candidates barred from campaigning. Running an election is a gargantuan tax in Indonesia. The archipelago of more than 17,000 islands stretches across 3 time zones and a distance similar across the United States. Election officials have delivered ballot boxes and papers to far-flung regions, in some cases traveling hours by boats, helicopter, or oxy-drawn carts. The weather agency has warned about the risks of extreme weather in West Java on polling day. Media reported, meanwhile, the Election Commission has postponed voting in 10 villages in the Karangaya district in central Java due to flooding. Toyota Motor Car said on Tuesday both the president and chairman of Dahistu Motor will step down almost a year after the small car unit said it had rigged collision safety tests. The departure are among the most drastic changes Dahistu has made so far, as Toyota seeks to return the brand to its roots as one of Japan's most iconic compact car makers. Toyota faces a potential hit to the reputation from the safety certification lapses at Dahistu, as well as separate governance issues at truck maker Hino Motors and affiliate Toyota Industries. The scandals at the three companies triggered a rare apology of Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda last month. In a statement, the world's top-selling automaker said its chief executive officer for the Latin America and Caribbean region, Masahiro Inoue, will replace Tsuyoshiro Okudara as Dahistu president effective March 1st. Dahistu chairman Sunao Matsubayashi will also step down and will not be replaced, Toyota added. The outgoing Okudara had worked at Toyota for nearly 4 decades before becoming president of Dahistu in 2017, a year after it became a wholly owned Toyota subsidiary. Toyota chief executive Koji Sato told reporters, however, that the organization change at Dahistu was not carried out as a punishment for the outgoing executives. In volume terms, Dahistu accounted for 7% of Toyota's total group sales of 11.2 million vehicles in 2023, including those of the luxury Lexus brand and Hino Motors. Given the misconduct over the safety test certification applications, Dahistu also will be removed from a commercial vehicle partnership known as the Commercial Japan Partnership Technologies, the automaker said in a separate statement. The partnership was established in April 2021 by Toyota, Hino, and Isuzu Motors to facilitate technology development for commercial vehicles. Suzuki Motor and Dahistu joined in July the same year. Dahistu 10% equity stake in the partnership will be transferred to Toyota, the statement said. investors are at their most bullish in 2 years this month and no longer expect a recession as confidence grows in the resilience of the underlying economy, a Bank of America survey showed on Tuesday. Fund managers with a combined $568 billion in assets cut cash to 4.2% from 4.8% and lifted global stocks allocations to a 2-year high, the report showed. This is the first time since April 2022 that fund managers have dropped their calls for recession, the survey showed. The fastest growing category is the no landing scenario. The survey showed 19% now forecast no landing for the economy, up from 7% in the January survey. Some 65% forecast a soft landing for the economy and 11% predict a hard landing. Last month, 79% predicted a soft or no landing outlook, while 17% called for a hard landing. Markets are pricing for a series of interest rate cuts this year from the major central banks. The Federal Reserve has pushed back against some of this optimism, and recent data has not argued in favor of prompt cuts either. Yet, the S&P 500 has hit record high above 5,000 this month, driven by enthusiasm about AI and a bumper earnings season. Investors have certainly gone all in on technology stocks. According to the survey, tech allocations is at its highest since August 2020, and fund managers believe that long Magnificent Seven, a national basket on the 7 biggest US companies by market value that includes Apple and Microsoft, is the most crowded trade right now. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Tuesday.